Alchemy. We are going to be discussing one of the greatest esoteric secrets. We're going to go from beginner to intermediate to a little bit of the advanced stuff today. This is going to be a really interesting one. Thank you for joining. This is Professor Matt. I am going to be instructing a little bit, I guess, from a lot of different angles today on alchemy. So let's just jump right in. First and foremost, I want to say thank you guys for watching. Thank you for all the engagement. Love you guys. Hope you guys are doing well. The alchemical process is one of refinement, all right? Deeply rooted in our psychology is the very first instance of things that we've ever done. The first thing you ever do is you produce a giant flash of light. In Genesis, God says, "Let there be light," and so do you, right? When your dad's sperm hits your mom's egg, you're both neither of those things and also a combination of those things at the same time. It's like a 0 point, if you want to think of it that way. And when they finally unionize, there is a huge flash, a zinc spark, which occurs, and that's been well documented. I made a TikTok video. You can go check that out. It shows the whole thing, and we actually have footage of that. As a species, we know that that's the first thing that ever happens to us. Then the second thing that really ever happens, the first thing you choose to do is split yourself apart. And again, this would be very synonymous with the very beginning stages of the creation of the universe. God would be one source of energy. It would have had to segregate parts of itself to somewhere else, essentially. And the ancient mystics saw it that way. They saw this within nature, and they also saw this within the human body, how the brain and the body are together but also segregated at the same time. It is the same way that God's universal source energy is both within our world and also sits outside of our world. And the brain, it rules all of the subconscious necessities of our existence. The brain is what assists the body with its mitosis process. The brain releases chemicals. The brain helps you breathe without thinking about it. These are all subconscious. They're unseen. You don't recognize them. So alchemy, which really used to be chemistry, alchemy is really the understandings of all the mechanisms of reality and how they work together in order to bring about completedness or wholeness. You can see that this is a person. There's a little baby right here in the center. They always have that because it's a reference to the inner child or the inner divine spark of God, so to speak. And then as it breaks down, you can see that life is full of all these different parts, different elements, different egregore manifestations of energy, different aspects, archetypes, if you will. So let's get really into it. Alchemy is known as this forerunner of chemistry. They always are talking about turning lead into gold, but that's more symbolism. And yes, there were alchemists that were trying to actually turn lead into gold because they understood the processes of nature, and they understood that, hey, if you can understand all of the chemicals, it's the same. It's no different from what laboratory scientists are doing today. They're trying to manufacture synthetic gold, which is essentially real gold, but you have to figure out how to do it alchemically speaking. And there were people who were trying to do that, but that was just kind of the front. Real alchemy was always talking about the pre-existing symbiotic relationship between living creatures and the universal energy of all existence. You can see the zodiacal band up here. This is a famous alchemical art piece. You see the zodiac band, which is a reference to cosmic energy, like energy that's outside of the earthly control or domain. And then you have all these different faculties that really are just a reflection of the human body. The sun and the moon are the reflection of polarity. You see the fires are always down here. You've got three major crowns. One crown is down here. Another dual crown is right here in the middle. And then the top crown right here, which is, again, just a reflection of the human body. It's the same that we can see here. It's always mapped out anthropologically, because we really do believe in that old verbiage that we are made in the image of God. So what we can see further is you can see like the alchemical stabs where like there's this giant pillar and these workers that are clothed in red, like red blood, and then you've got all these tubes and different Bunsen burners. This is again a body, the spinal column with the nerve endings that are all and all of the nerve endings, we know this through neuroimmunology and other medical aspects, but all of those nerve endings are deeply rooted in the organs. Okay, so this is really just again another anthropological art piece. It's like we have projected our image onto everything. Here's another one, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 8 separate stages here. Generally, it's 7 stages in alchemy. Sometimes people used 8, it was always around the same numbers and whatnot, but you can see all of these are just different aspects and processes. You see like there's these people in these jars. It's like really weird. This looks more like an Adam and Eve type of thing over here. And then like it's, there's a lot of biblical symbology, but really at the end of the day, it's just metaphor. A lot of it's just metaphor, but it is also physical, right? Like the stages of alchemy, there's 7. We're going to get into that in a second. It's really just separate stages on how things evolve. That's really what it's about. It's about spiritual and physical, soulful transformation. So a lot of the time when you look into alchemy, you'll see things like the Philosopher's Stone. You'll see all these different common symbols. Again, this is like chemistry, guys. So this is the way that they saw it back in the ancient days. The alchemical symbols are really, metaphor for higher level concepts. So in alchemy, you normally have 3 substances being salt, sulfur. So you got salt, sulfur, and I'm not seeing the other one on here. But normally they do mercury. Am I missing it? Yeah, I guess they did not put mercury on here. Normally it's salt, sulfur, and mercury. Those are like the 3 major substances, because those are the 3 substances believed to be the root of the majority of all life, like the 3 pillars that is required for all life. Now, mercury doesn't actually mean mercury like the substance. It's more like quicksilver. It's in reference to, I guess you could say blood plasma. It's the intermediary substance, or like cerebrospinal fluid. It's mercury a lot of the time was more indicative of like the aspect of the evolutionary cycle itself, whereas the salt and the sulfur were more like the earthly necessities required. So there's actually a lot of deep symbolism. I won't super get into that, but basically those 3 triangular pillars are also a reflection of the Holy Trinity. And there's a lot of debate over many different writings about what those 3 elements basically stood out for. In astrology, they see the same thing in the modalities. So you have like cardinal, fixed, and mutable aspects in astrology that go with the signs. It's very similar to that, where basically all of those major groups, anything could fall into those. So like silver and gold would fall under the category of the mercury. The sulfur would have things like fire and air. Water would be earth and salt would be water and earth. And there's different interpretations. Other people had different interpretations. Mercury was almost seen as like an etheric substance. It was like a very godly substance, so to speak. So at the end of the day, alchemy has been lied about to basically make people believe, oh, it was just a bunch of crazy crackpot ancient white dudes in Europe that were just trying to turn lead into gold because they were greedy, or maybe they were, really smart and they were just trying to get rich. Again, yeah, that happened, but that really was not at all what a lot of the deeper alchemists were. Paracelsus, Carey and Perry, Manly P. Hall, you could even say in a more modern sense, Terence McKenna. What they established, right, what they really discuss is human evolution, the soul's evolution, the evolution of the spirit, and they're very cryptic. Right now, a lot of the time, the crypticness, it's lost upon us today. You don't want to know why? It's because of the internet. Because of the internet, we have been so hyper exposed to other people's opinions. Back in the day, people used to get really pissed off and would kill people. Now people don't do that. Right now, people just say, "Oh, that guy's just an a-hole," and you move on with your day. it's very interesting now, because now the truth has much more of an opportunity to fight, even though there's, a lot of censorship also going on too. So alchemy is an art of refinement. I like that. The divine is hidden within matter, within you. Okay, so it's basically talking about light. So what we're really talking about, you want to know the real secret here. It's always in the patterning. You see the light with the sun. This is a process of converting darkness and transmuting the darker elements of life into light. Your nervous system runs on light. Your body runs on light-based energy. When you eat food, there's a lot of conversions that happen just like this. And basically, it gets turned into more of an etheric substance of light and information, and all that. And the reason I bring up the food is just because that's like, everybody thinks you eat the food and then you just magically get this energy. But the energy is created through the mitochondria in the cells, and it really is dealing with electromagnetic energy. That is the output. It's like your cells have a minimal volt. All right. I think it's something like you have each cell can contain a certain amount of energy, and you have like 37 trillion cells. So you are a walking conduit. It's like why, if you have an electronic device or a battery, you can like lick your finger and you can touch it and you'll get reactions. It's because your body not only conducts electricity, it also creates it. It houses it. Your nervous system uses it. Your DNA uses it. Your DNA is piezoelectric. Right? So all of these things are mechanisms of reality. They're mechanisms. So that's why you see a lot of this ancient symbolism. You'll get like, you see 5 down here, right? You've got the 4 elements, and then you've got the 5th element, along with those 5 elements, which are, guarded by this mercurial looking thing down here. You've got the sun and the moon making 7. So it really has a lot to do with reality. You can see the 3 stages. Here's the salt, here's the sulfur, and here's the mercury, I believe. So again, there's those 3 pillars. You see the band of the zodiac around this wheel. Again, that has to do with time and conscious energy, consciously understanding the spectrum of time. And then on the inner, you have the 7 major planets. The 7 major planets, which of course govern over our days of the week. So you've got the 12 months of the year and the 7 days of the week right there. Again, this also has to deal with time, not just stages. I liked this. This is an AI picture. Obviously, the words are gibberish. But this is you. I want you to really imagine that all these Bunsen burners, the fire, on the bottom and all this stuff, this is really just an image of a person. And again, it's like a stairway. So here's another ancient alchemical, I think this is actually part of a bigger piece, this drawing or painting, or however you want to kind of call it, this art piece. And as you can see, it's a pentagon. You can see 1, 2, 3, and then theoretically it would be 4 and 5. You can kind of see the shape here. It's a pentagon, so it's the 7 stages on top of the 5, which again that also makes 12. And you've got duality as the sun and the moon at the top. And this woman, clearly a woman, right, holding a staff, a tree, some form of what would you call it? Plant that is upright, and it's got like the little flowers as well on the sides. This is you, okay? This is like you've got your little flower, your brain at the top with the little organelles. And then this guy is transcribing. So she's the muse, and he's transcribing this information. And again, here's the sun on that left side over here with the male. Here's the moon with the female. So it's like the left and the right hemispheres of the brain, and you're looking at it, right? So keep that in mind too. But these are the 7 stages, and these are in Latin, I'm pretty sure. Calcination, which would be calcination normally. And so you can see there's the 3, right? The Trinity. Then you have the 7. None of this is blasphemous or heretical, by the way. If you're a Christian or if you're Catholic or whatever, this was very inundated and very heavily safely guarded. It's the 7 churches of Asia in the Bible. It's the 7 deadly sins, the 7 holy virtues, right? Once again, it's like we see this mapped out everywhere, 777. They even say in the Bible that 7 is God's favorite number or something along those lines, and that's just because 7 is a number of unity. If you watched our thing on the Kabbalah video that I did yesterday, I talked about it always talks about going up and to the right, cast your nets to the right hand side, etc. in the Bible. Up and to the right is the seven. You know, you're going up and to the right, and then you plateau over here, and then you have another seven stacked on top. So when you follow that Kabbalistic thing, you're literally going up and to the right when you draw the number seven. Right, that's exactly what you do, and then there's a plane. So it's like being held upright. The plane is being held upright. It's just like it's your spine. So the seven alchemical steps or stages, right? We're gonna get into that, but we're gonna talk about daily practices too. Okay, so mornings and evenings are really important because you're resetting and reconfiguring your subconscious mind, right? And so yeah, they're talking about this is just some AI prompt that I did for the video, but basically 5 minutes of silence before sunrise, and also 5 minutes of silence, 10 minutes, whatever, right before you go to bed, right? Like really reconfiguring. That's more of on the mental plane. The physical plane as well, you want to ensure that your diet is functioning properly, right? I'm going to get into a lot of this in a second. You want to make sure your diet is functioning properly, exercise routine, get energy work done. Energy work includes things like massages. Why? Because it's your nervous system. Again, it's not just your muscles. You're also getting your nervous system. That's actually where a lot of your pain is stored if you're going for massages. Acupuncture, that's not one I've really actually tried, but some people really swear by it. That's all about pressure points and where nerve ending points are located within the body to reset the nervous system, because that's kind of the whole way that we learn and grow and evolve and prosper. Chiropractitioners, right? Like all of these this isn't medical advice. This is just advice so that you can get everything functioning properly. You have basically, multiple systems within the human body. And I go off of a 7-form system, which is, again, very much in line with the chakras and the 7 stages of alchemical transformation. You have to be very solid, physically, all right, with your desires, okay, with your willpower or your spirit. All right, so spiritually, that means that you have to feed your energy source. You have to feed your energy, your electrical energy, in order to have enough energy to sustain yourself. You have to have love, and that includes self-love, which actually self-love is the most important, which is not ego, it's self-love. Then you have to work on your soul. And your soul's journey is the frequency output that you're able to consistently put out. The spirit is like the fire. The spirit drives the soul. Okay, the soul is like the mind, and the spirit is like the heart. You can think of it that way. All right, the soul is the energy that you house within the body, and the spirit is your ability to change that energy. Right, so imagine you're depressed. If you are low in spirit, your soul's frequency is going to be low. But if you can have spirit, right, if you can have willpower, okay, then you can actually burn brighter, and then your soul's energy and frequency will go higher. It's like your spirit is the baseline Bunsen burner. How high do you want to turn that heat? And then the chemical in the Bunsen burner is like your soul. It's like that's going to be matched by your spirit. So if you're depressed or anxious or whatever, you need more spiritual willpower. And that doesn't mean religion necessarily. Spirit comes from, understanding. Really, a lot of it's breathing, right? A lot of it's the subconscious and the conscious mind programming. And it's also, where you're getting external source input. The soul is just like purely internal, right? And you can connect your soul with other people, but the spirit is really the driving force of that. The spirit is like a resource, if you want to think of it that way. And there's ways to practice to get those resources. Like I mentioned, you want to have good exercise routine, good diet, good mental meditations, right? After the soul form, then you get up into the mental form and the emotional form. And by emotional, I don't mean feelings. I mean stimuli. Emotion, as in like what Robert Kiyosaki says, energy in motion. He didn't come up with that, by the way. That's like another ancient alchemical saying, is energy in motion, is emotion. So all these rich dudes study this stuff too. They just don't really talk about it because everybody would think they're weird, which they are because they're super rich. But anyway, so the whole point here is that there are tons of different ways that we can, study ourselves, take a look at ourselves on a deeper practical level. And that 7-form system does help. So you have like the mental reflection, the meditations, all of those things are necessary in order for everything in your life to function properly, right? And then you get into the psychology of it, the shadow and the integration of all that. And that's why there's multiple different stages, right? Like there's 4 essences, the Negretto, the Albedo, basically the black, the white, the red, and the, oftentimes it's yellow or green, sometimes pale, right? It's like the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, very biblical. It's talking about so there's 4 major stages that have to deal with the art of the 4 corners of the necessities for transformation. Then there's the 3 stages of transformation, which create the 7 total stages of transformation, which when you combine with the 5 elements then become the 12. Okay, so 3 and 4 are by themselves. Basically, you have the square with the triangle and the circle, right? The circle is often either 1 or 0. The triangles, the 3, the squares, the 4. You overlap all of these because it's a combination of multiple different systems. Like I mentioned, just take yourself, for example. Spirit, so you've got a soul, you've got a physical body, you've got psychology, right? This cat is purring. Where are you? There you are. You've got your soul, right? You've got your mental, and you've got your physical. Just take a look at that, right? Like spirit, physical, mental. Just keep it simple, right? Keep it very simple. That is exactly one process of a system. But then you also have parts of you like desire, love, emotion, right? Like stimuli. A lot of these things are external. These are external factors. So you use the 3 internal factors with the 4 external factors to create the 7. And then that 7 combines with the 5 elements to create the 12. And that 13th element is the Christ. It's the unification of all 12 elements. That is what the whole Philosopher's Stone and all those other symbologies are all about, is the inner alchemical process. We'll talk about that in a second here. But this is basically the breakdown. You can see that triangle, you can see the 7, normally you can see a square within that as well, because those are the 4 major stages. But it's really just like it's a numbers game, and it's a bunch of systems layered on top of each other. It's like a stock market, right? Like you can't just look at one thing to understand where the market's going to go. You've got to look at a lot of different moving parts. That is exactly what this was. This alchemy was a deep understanding of all of nature's principles, seeing how life forms, evolves, and dies, so that we could understand ourselves better, psychologically, spiritually, and physically, right? Because it's all layers. And again, a lot of this is rooted in mitosis. Mitosis being that process. There's a Greek word metsosis, or metsusis, or however you say it, and it's very loosely linked to the etymology for our word mitosis, but it also basically means the cycles of transformation, the cycles of death and rebirth. That's what keeps you alive. That's how you reverse aging, is by promoting mitosis that is healthy and lengthy, right? Like if your body undergoes too much mitosis, you age too fast. If your body doesn't undergo mitosis enough, then things like cancer cells can form. It's like keeping a complete, perfect balance of your body's own alchemical process of sustaining you alive. It's finding pure balance so that your body moves when it needs to move. It undergoes that process when it needs to. And it's also psychological, right? Because again, we have to understand archetypes. We have to understand the differing points of what it means to be human, and how you kind of go through life and transform, right? Like you go from a child to a teenager to adult. These are all transformations. I'm going to stop right here and do a quick plug. Please check out my AI tool. It has an inner alchemy tracker and calculator so that you can track your own inner alchemical process, whether you're male or female. It comes with a daily planner, and then if you get the advanced version, it will come with the astrology tool and calculator, which not only shows like the current projections and gives you great breakdowns, but also gives you very deep and insightful daily breakdowns on what you can expect every single day. So that is really cool, and I really hope that you guys check that out. If that doesn't interest you, check out my my school. We have a lot of members that are in here now, and a lot of people have joined, and it's really nice. It's really fun. People are commenting on tons of different stuff. You know, new comment 2 minutes ago, 3 minutes ago. So the community's popping. We've got 60 people in here. Come join, come check it out. We'd love to get you in here talking about stuff as well. I'm going to be adding, you know, more courses on Alchemy, more courses on Kabbalah, which I already talked about I was doing, but there's tons of courses that are in here already, so feel free to come check that out, guys. Really, really cool, and I hope that you guys enjoy it. So back to the alchemy. Let's talk about the 7 stages. Calcination, right? Breaking down things, okay? Calcination is like, you know, you can calcify your pineal gland. People talk about that all the time. Calcination is really like the breaking down, or, you know, when it calcifies, it's where calcium overtakes. So in other words, the earth starts to overtake it and supersede it. So chemically, heating a substance over a flame until it turns to ashes, right? So it's really like a breaking down of an ego or psychology, right? Because first, the cell has to begin the stages of death, right? And this is all also the hero's journey process as well. Dissolution. All right, so dissolving what was broken down into water, quote unquote water, but water is a cleanser, right? So it's immersion into the unconscious. So really what a dissolution is, the breakdown, and this is also the mitosis process, as I've already explained like a million times. But it's important because you have to understand this is everything, right? Like think about when it rains. Calcination would be when the sun comes in and basically cooks the water. The water is then changing form, right? It's calcifying. It's changing form into air. It's changing form into gas, right? And then that gas dissolves into the clouds. Okay, then there's a separation between the cloud and the water, so you see how like all of this is the process of nature itself, right? So anyway, dissolution, right? So the thing that was broken down starts to intermix with what's existent. And then there's separation between those two things, or multiple parts, right? Multiple things. Then there's conjunction, or there's what begins to form a unity. It begins to form a brand new substance from the water, from the thing. So it's like a coffee pot, right? Like calcination would be, you take the beans, you grind them up and you throw them in the thing. Dissolution, now you turn the coffee pot on, the water starts to trickle in there, the coffee starts to go in, and then there's a separation, right? That's where like the water hasn't really fully immersed itself with the coffee grounds yet, right? It's like when you see it in well, I use a French press, but it's whatever. Everybody's got a different way of doing it, right? You see the water and the coffee don't mix right away. If you've ever made coffee, they don't mix right away. Like the coffee grounds have to absorb the water. That's the conjunction. Then the fermentation, right? You got to leave your coffee there. If you pour the coffee immediately, as soon as it's, you know, like in a French press, right? Like as soon as you press it and everything else, if you just pour that coffee immediately, you don't give it like 5 minutes and wait, then it tastes light, it tastes bland. You give it some time, it seeps in there, and it's the same with the clouds, right? The clouds separate the water into their own little pockets or whatever. And then and different clouds, you know, some clouds hold enough water and some didn't, you know, from whenever the sun came in and burned it, right, and burned that water. So now the cloud is fermenting with the water, and then there's the distillation. That's where it rains, right? And then when it rains, that's also the same as when basically, you know, it's the purification aspect of it. So after it ferments, okay, it starts to create its own will. Right, suffering breeds resilience. Right, so in other words, it's this fermentation creates its own will, and then the distillation happens. Right, and that's where we make sure the ego no longer controls us. Whatever this is saying, but basically that's where there's a new refinement of a substance which is occurring, and then coagulation, where basically everything unifies again. And then once it unifies, it's in a opportunity to be broken down once more. Once it's unified, okay, then you refine it. So you can apply this to making a weapon, like a sword, right? It's like you're hammering it out, you're separating, you're putting it in the cold water, you're going back and you're refining it once again. Once it coagulates, right? Once it becomes hardened, once it becomes real, intangible. So this is also the inner alchemical process of the body. This is like, you know, the 7 stages of spiritual alchemy, right? So calcination, unwanted and the unnecessary are burnt to ashes. Dissolution, intense emotions, and it brings forth intense crying. This is really worded strangely. Separation, deep thinking and understanding. Conjunction allows one to begin their desired path. Fermentation, the old begins to die and one starts to receive a glimpse of the new. Distillation undergoes further purification after facing a series of hardships. And then coagulation, it is time to become whole again. So that's like a more psychological approach, right? And here's another one, you know, you can pause to read. But really, this is talking, again, about many different things, one of which, the most important, I would say, is the human body. And this is the inner alchemical process, the sacred secretion, the kundalini, the philosopher's stone, the stairway to heaven, the Christ seed, Christ oil, sword in the stone. It's got all these different names, right? Manna from heaven, because basically once a month your body sends signals down, your brain sends signals, okay, because it's like it's all based on light signals and patterns. Sends those signals down into the body. The body refurbishes all of its physical chemicals, like in the Bunsen burner and everything else. And if you're good, brings that energy up back into the brain, and then the brain becomes illuminated, reawakened, and it's the distillation process, right? This is the sun, okay, shining down into the body, which we already know it does because of the nervous system, right? And then basically, you know, if you're good, cooks the substance, right? So you use your body as the Bunsen burner to cook the substance, bring it back up, and then the distillation, like it rains. Okay, as above, so below. That the waters above flow to the waters below, etc., etc. It's like a rain within you. Okay, so you create all these substances, not just CSF, which a lot of people think it's just cerebrospinal fluid. It's not. Lipids, exosomes, all those get, you know, a lot of junk basically comes down here, goes back up into the brain, and then the brain refurbishes it. And this is how we prolong our lives. This is how we live. So sacred secretion, as it's often called. But if you, you know, a lot of people have misinformation. They have not done their research. They don't know what they're doing with this. They are just regurgitating material. If you are interested, I have the Astraya AI tool that comes with an alchemy tracker. It is based on whether you're male or female. So the female is a different cycle than the male, which is the moon and the sun sign, which a lot of people talk about. Again, I wrote a dissertation. I did a case study on this with 50 people. Okay, you can tell me I'm wrong, or you can tell me your favorite YouTuber or whatever says differently. They didn't do all the research the way that I did. So just keep that in mind, okay? They can own any type of system they want. I've actually created a system. So, you know, you can come check that out, and then you can also check out the online school as well, where people are learning and growing. But with that, I will say I love you guys. I hope that you guys have a wonderful day. I will always be here for you, and if you need me, just reach out. I also do one-on-one coaching sessions. I have a few spots still open, so if you're interested, reach out to me. But I love you guys, and I'll see you in tomorrow's video. Take care.